So it's a little different to see me here. But I am so grateful to share this opportunity with you today, and I hope that at the end of my time in the pulpit, you are also grateful. It may be because it's over. I'm okay with that. But hopefully it will be because I shared something that in some small way touched you a little bit or spoke to you in some way. In either case, the offertory is over, so if I don't pan out, you might consider increasing your gift, because the old adage is, you get what you pay for. I hope you get your money's worth today. Last week, the Spirit came down with tongues of fire. It compelled the disciples to go out and to do great works, to speak in other languages that they did not know. It came in tongues of fire that rested above them. Fire. What an active symbol. It consumes, it burns, it changes. Today, I'm stuck with a different text. Jesus says, you cannot bear all that needs to be revealed right now. It's a little cryptic, don't you think? So he says, I'll leave you the Spirit of truth. The Spirit will reveal the truth, will guide you to the truth and declare to you the truth. These words are very active. The Spirit reveals. The Spirit guides us to the truth. The Spirit declares to us the truth. Now, in the days of the Old Testament, you might have noticed that God was very active in the world. He spoke directly to his people. You know, this kind of intervention. He was with you. He was down and dirty with the people. He was in our midst, and there was no fuzziness about his message. He interacted with Abraham. He told him, from you I will make great nations. He spoke with Moses. They laid out a detailed plan of action. Can you imagine that conversation? God, Moses, together you and I are going to free the Israelites. Moses, you really think so? My brother's really spoiled and stubborn. First, you'll march into Egypt and go to the court of Pharaoh. They will doubt you there, but we'll send the first plague. River turns into blood. And if they still don't listen, I'll inundate them with frogs. You don't know my brother? Then I'll send bugs. Everybody hates bugs. I'll make them so thick that they can't even breathe. And so forth and so on until 10 plagues. Boy, that was a long staff meeting. But in the Old Testament, he was an actively intervening God, getting down with the people and coming into their midst. Those were the good old days. Things were clear, and people didn't have to guess or work so hard to figure out what the will of God was. Let's be honest. Today's far more skeptical world. I go so far as to say that our society might be even a little cynical. After all, we are enlightened. We know about those people who claim that God literally speaks to them. We see them on the street. We roll up our windows when they approach us. We give them medications. We don't really believe so much that somebody could say and not be a little sandwich short of a picnic. That God spoke to them, right? So here's the question. If we know that those people don't hear the voice of God, how is God's truth revealed today? Jesus tells his disciples, that's you and me. The Spirit reveals the truth. The Spirit guides us to the truth. the Spirit declares to us the truth. It's as plain as day. If we don't truly believe that God can and does speak to us, then what does that mean for the UCC motto, God is still speaking? Is it just branding? Is it simply a clever way to get people interested in the church, to get them engaged, somehow attributing social ideas or ideals to God? Well, I can't speak for anyone else, but I can tell you that for me, those 4 words, God is still speaking, they're far more than a simple motto. They're not a brand. To me, these words are powerful. They're poignant. I desperately want them to be reality. I need them to be reality. Because I'm not satisfied with the way things are in this world. I'm not okay with how I see people being treated. I'm not okay with the mentality, get ahead at all costs, even your brothers and sisters' costs. I'm utterly fed up with the pointing of fingers. They are the problem. If it weren't for them, this world would be perfect. It'd be a better place. If God is no longer speaking, then I'd be overwhelmed in the face of all the problems of this world. If God is no longer speaking and has abandoned us, then I would be utterly lost. And I don't think I could dare to hope that it could change. So I'm here to tell you that God is still speaking through the Spirit. I believe this to the very core of my being. And because I believe this, I dare to hope. I dare to believe that I can be an agent of change. So the question remains, in the 21st century, us enlightened people, how does the Spirit reveal truth? How does the Spirit guide us to truth? And how does the Spirit declare to us God's truth? Why did the God of the Old Testament plainly and clearly speak to people? Believe me, I don't think it was a golden age. They had it no better. It was far worse. It was an imperfect society, a downright classist system. It was easy to justify ways to marginalize those who didn't fit into the normative cultural standard. What made them that long ago so worthy of God's direct interaction and intervention? Why is it that we don't hear God's voice far more often today? Why isn't God's voice pounding in our ears and echoing through our halls? We have come so far. We have made so many advances. We are enlightened. I read an article the other day about job interviews, about there are 2 qualities that are assessed immediately when you walk in. One of them, are you trustworthy? And the other one, are you a good worker? Of the 2 of these, the most important is whether somebody judges you to be trustworthy, whether they can look at you and say, I can work with this person. I trust them to have my back. We live in a skeptical world. We live in a world that sometimes just tears us down, that pulls us apart one stitch at a time. Trust is a really important thing, don't you think? And so, is it that we don't trust God, that we don't hear the voice? Or is it that we've forgotten how to listen? We are so busy in our technological age. We are connected at all times. we have Mr. Google to answer every question we have in 0.32 milliseconds. So what made them so worthy that God spoke to them? You know, they're no different than you and I. And Jesus promises us that the Spirit will reveal the truth, that he would guide us to the truth and declare to us the truth. Was this an empty promise? I don't think so. I believe Jesus was earnest in what he said, and that the Spirit speaks to us today. I see it in the things that happen in this church. 25 years open and affirming before it was popular. The Spirit moves in this place with the people that I see here. I know it when they listen to me, when they talk to me, and when they share their hearts with me. I know that the Spirit is here and with each of us. A story I often have told to my choir, well, not often, twice. I can't tell it without crying, so you'll have to forgive me. I worked as a music therapist for many years, and one of my jobs was to go into a hospital for people recovering from major surgeries, hip surgeries, knee surgeries, all manner of surgeries. And generally the people I worked with were elderly. Some of them had Alzheimer's. Most of them didn't have very many family or friends to visit with them. And I felt very privileged to be able to go room to room and sing with them a little bit. So I'd bring my guitar and my book, and I'd sing with people from one room to the other, and I felt like I was spreading God's happiness. I really did. And one day I was walking into a room, and as I was about to enter, the nurse exited, and she says, "You know, don't bother. She'll never hear you. She'll never even notice that you're there. And, you know, she's just not engaged in the world." And I thought, you know, I have 5 more rooms to do. I only have a half an hour. Maybe I should. And I stopped and I thought, no, I think I'm going to go in anyway. I can sing a song. It'll take me 2.5 minutes, and, you know, that'll be that. So I walked in and I started singing, and the lady laid down in her bed and looked off into the distance. And as I sang, I noticed that partway through the song, her eyes had shifted ever so slightly to see me. So I asked, "Would you like me to sing another?" And she gave me the slightest of nods, the little blink, and so I sang another. And by that time, her head had turned toward me and was looking at me, and a small smile creeped across her face. And I began to speak to her after that song, and she told me her name. I said, "Do you want me to hear something in particular?" "Whatever you choose, dear." So I sang with her. I spent the rest of my 15 minutes that I was supposed to do the other 5 rooms with her. You know? You're going to make me cry. And I went about my business. You know, I finished my day, and the next week I come in, and lo and behold, she has a visitor there. I walk in and I said, "Hi, do you remember me?" And she said, "Oh yes, I remember you. We had such a good time last week singing." I said, "Yes, that's right." And her friend was there, a younger lady, and she was crying a little bit. And so I proceeded to sing with them, and we had a good time. We had a lot of laughter and some conversation and quite a few tears. And as I walked out, the lady followed me out. And she says, "You know, you gave me the greatest gift I've ever received today." And I said, "What's that?" And she said, "My mother hasn't known my name for 17 years. And today she called me by that. And we sang together, and we had a great time. And I knew this was going to happen because last week when I called her, she told me all about your session. We were on the phone for 15 minutes. That's more time than I spent in a year on the phone with my mom. So I knew I had to be here. So I booked my flight. And I thought to myself, I'd have missed this if I hadn't listened to the Spirit. The Spirit is alive. It's well. It is here. It is with you. Listen. Amen.